The result is the realization that sickness is merely something which arises in the body, and not something which should be allowed to pierce and enter their hearts. So their hearts remain strong in their faith in the Dhamma truths, which they see clearly in themselves. Mindfulness and wisdom are then fully proficient within them, and they are not afraid of suffering or death. So they are contented and free from anxiety and concern. This is what is meant when we say that present-day Thutanga Kammatthana bhikkhus treat illness with the Dhamma remedy, which is the way it's usually done in the sphere of the Dhamma truths. Benefiting the world. Venerable Ajaan Khao had many followers, including bhikkhus, novices, and laypeople from many areas of Thailand. They came continually to learn and train in moral behavior with him. But when he grew old, he tried to look after himself by being quiet and calm more than he used to do when he was younger. In that way, his mind and body would last as long as reasonably possible, so that he could give value to the world in the many places which needed to receive it. Normally, after having eaten food in the morning, Ajaan Khao went to his Jangama path and walked in meditation for 1 or 2 hours. Then he returned to his hut to rest, after which he sat in meditation until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If he had no other business to attend to, he again went to his Jangama path and continued walking meditation until it was time for him to sweep the ground in the open areas of the monastery. Following sweeping, he had a bath, after which he again walked Jangama until 10 or 11 p.m. He stopped then and returned to his hut, where he did some chanting and meditation until it was time for him to lie down and rest his body. He normally rose at about 3 a.m. and continued doing meditation until dawn, when it was time to go out for Pindapata. After Pindapata, he ate food to support his body, a result, vipaka, of his past kamma, which he still had to look after. That is the daily routine that Ajaan Khao always maintained, unless some other essential business forced a change, such as being asked to participate in various functions, causing a break in his routine. Even in old age, he still refused to allow his declining health to curtail his customary zeal. Some people have asked me why he continued to put such strenuous effort into practice when in truth he had nothing further to accomplish. They could not figure out why he remained so active and energetic. I tried to explain to them that someone who has completely eliminated the kilesas has no debilitating lethargy left to trap his mind in a web of delusion. Meanwhile, the rest of us have amassed such a debilitating mountain of laziness that it virtually obscures us from view. As soon as we get started on some worthwhile endeavor, we become apprehensive lest the fruits of our efforts overload our capacity to store them. We worry ahead of time about how exhausted we will be when the work becomes difficult. In the end, having failed to gather those wholesome fruits, we are left with an empty basket. That is, an empty, joyless heart, drifting aimlessly with no hard-earned store of merit to fall back on. Instead, we fill our empty hearts with complaints about all the difficulties we face. So laziness, this blight in our hearts, keeps throwing up obstacles to block our way. Those who have cleansed this blight from their hearts remain persistent, persevering in times of hardship. They never worry about overloading their capacity to store the fruits of their efforts. Those individuals whose hearts are pure, unblemished Dhamma, cleared of all worldly defilements, stand out majestically in all situations. Somber, sullen moods never arise in their hearts, making them perfect examples for the world to follow. People with Dhamma virtue as high as that of Ajaan Khao never expect to get happiness from any source other than from the Dhamma within their own hearts. Their lives are fulfilled by the Dhamma within them. Whatever their circumstances of life happen to be, their hearts have an unvarying happiness that neither increases nor decreases, unlike worldly people whose happiness fluctuates, having ups and downs that go together as a pair. The reason for this difference is that those Ajans have only one state of heart, one that is entirely pure throughout, having only Dhamma as its one state, Ekipala, without any duality present to vie for recognition. This is a state of peace and happiness that is quite impossible to compare with anything else. The citta, which is entirely pure throughout, has peace and happiness that is sufficient in and of itself. It has no desire for any additional support, which would only be a useless disturbance that would be of no value at all to that citta. For that reason, those whose cittas are pure like to live alone, without distractions or disturbances. Disruptive conditions interrupt the calm and happiness in their basic nature, which is totally satisfied within itself, by causing the mind to stir and acknowledge the sensations that enter through the sense doors. So the Ajaans prefer to seclude themselves in those places that are best suited to their natural dispositions. Those people who don't understand their reason for doing this tend to think that the Ajaans don't welcome visitors, or that they dislike people, or that they are only interested in saving themselves, and are not interested in teaching and training others. But the fact of the matter is what has been explained above. It is very rare to find anyone like these Ajaans who can teach and train people with a completely pure heart full of metta, without any thought of worldly gain or recompense. They teach people of every social status and every age group, after having truly realized the truth within themselves. Teaching Dhamma with metta that is completely blameless, they aim to benefit those who accept the truth from them. The exception is those people who go to them and cause trouble by acting in ways that go beyond what is reasonable. When this happens, the Ajaan will probably not welcome them or teach them. It's simply impossible for a bhikkhu to do what is unreasonable by acting in accordance with the request of someone who knows no bounds in what is good and correct. Such a disturbance might cause him harm as well, which would be a shame. While Venerable Ajaan Khao was still alive, he kindly gave encouragement to large numbers of bhikkhus and novices, as well as to lay people from many districts of Thailand. They came in a steady stream to pay homage to him and listen to his teaching. The bhikkhus in his wat saw that it was becoming increasingly difficult for him, because he was getting old and his body was weak, so they arranged it so that visitors could only pay homage and receive his teaching at suitable times each day. This enabled him to get enough rest so that he could give benefit to the world for a long time, ensuring that his life would not be cut short before reaching its proper time. For the most part, the meeting and receiving of guests for a bhikkhu who is an Ajaan involves meeting many lay people from many different backgrounds who have many preconceived ideas. The Ajaan is usually the one who gets battered and bruised the whole time while these people are with him. Most visitors are anxious to unload what is in their hearts on him, without considering whether they are making difficulties for him, or whether he has other duties which he should be doing at that time. So he tends to be disturbed more often than well water. If he doesn't meet their expectations, they become sullen and think that he's conceited and has an aversion for people because he refuses to receive guests in the way that one who is ordained as a bhikkhu for the purpose of cleansing the kilesas of conceit and aversion should. Besides this, they also set up an attitude of dislike within themselves, which they spread out to others in many places, bringing harm to themselves and others all the time. Then a bhikkhu who should be revered, respected, and beneficial to other people may become one who has a charge against him, without any court that is capable of clearing him. In truth, bhikkhus are ordained for the purpose of bringing benefit to themselves, as well as to the world, to the best of their ability without being complacent. They do one kind of work at this time and another kind of work at that time, so they rarely have any spare time, day or night. They must find time for helping the world, and time for helping the bhikkhus and novices whom they look after, and all the rest of those who associate with them. They must also find time for the needs of their bodies and their minds, so that they can live a long time and continue to bring benefit to the world. Every day and night their bodies and minds whirl round like a flywheel, giving them no time for rest and relaxation. When we think about it, even machines like motor vehicles are given time for rest or for repair and maintenance to extend their useful life. Otherwise, they would soon break up and be scrapped. Bhikkhus are not bags of bricks or cement which can be used as building materials for constructing a house or a shop, wherever the master builder sees fit to use them. If it's like that, bhikkhus are bound to become exhausted and need a rest, so they can put down the burden that makes them feel tense the whole time, giving them time to physically and mentally relax. When lay people visit a bhikkhu, they tend to bring along their usual temperament and their emotional problems as they please. Then they load it on him and make a lot of trouble for him, hoping he will make allowances for them. They never consider whether what they are doing is right or wrong, because fundamentally they have never been inclined to consider their behavior in terms of right and wrong or good and bad. When they want a bhikkhu to help them out with a problem, they rarely consider that bhikkhus have customs and standards of behavior that are different from theirs. Bhikkhus have the principles of Dhamma and Vinaya as the basis of their behavior and their way of living. So the manners they display are those of the Dhamma and Vinaya, which require them to think in terms of right and wrong, good and bad, all the time. Thus they must always consider carefully whether what they are asked to do is something they should or should not agree to. Lay people are not likely to have Dhamma and Vinaya ingrained in them as their guiding principles, so generally they tend to believe in what they like and then practice accordingly. When they go to a bhikkhu with this attitude, they are likely to disturb and trouble him, and perhaps do him some harm, even though they have no intention to do so. Or maybe they harm him indirectly by, for example, asking him to tell the winning number of the state lottery, which violates the Dhamma and Vinaya of a bhikkhu, asking him to make up magic potions to make a man and a woman love each other, asking him to tell the auspicious time when their luck is good for becoming wealthy, or for any one of 1,000 other desires which they may have, asking him to predict their future by astrology, asking him to tell them a magic saying or mantra to protect them so that they can withstand anyone who comes to mug them, or so they can't be shot, stabbed, or clubbed, or asking him to make holy water to ward off misfortune, distress, evils, and dangers. Such actions are contrary to the traditional values of the Dhamma and Vinaya that bhikkhus uphold, so they should not go along with such requests. In addition, the more revered an Ajaan is, the more he is troubled by things like the foregoing requests, and many others of the same sort, in fact so many that it would take all day to describe them. Thutanga bhikkhus in the lineage of Venerable Ajaan Mun, whose aim is the attainment of liberation, have no interest in the above things and consider them to be enemies to their progress on the path of the right Dhamma. They are the kinds of activities that lead people to develop very bad principles in themselves, ones that can even openly destroy bhikkhus and the religion they practice. For example, they may call a bhikkhu the lottery bhikkhu or the magic potion bhikkhu. And Buddhism they may call the lottery religion or the magic potion religion. This becomes a stain and a blemish on the bhikkhus and on Buddhism that steadily reduces its value. It's an inevitable consequence of agreeing to requests such as those mentioned above. I have no intention to blame those faithful people found everywhere who go to meet bhikkhus out of a love of Dhamma. Rather, my intention is to inform people about the situation so they may know the right and proper way of doing things between bhikkhus and lay people, who can never be completely separated. When each side knows how to behave properly in relation to the other, their relationship becomes harmonious and straightforward. This conforms with the concern for virtue and for the welfare of the religion, which both sides share as they entrust their lives and their well-being to each other.